Hi again. Welcome to this introduction session for the fourth edition of our Living Future Europe Masterclass. This year with the title Regenerative Design in Practice. So it's very clear the direction we are moving towards. Thanks for being with us. You are more than welcome to attend. We also recorded the session so that this will be available for those who are not able to make it today. I'm Carlo Battisti, President at Living Future Europe. Living Future Europe is the European affiliate of the International Living Future Institute, which recently changed the name into Living Future. So our colleagues in the US, they are Living Future, we are Living Future Europe. We are doing many activities, let's say, to promote regenerative design across Europe, also promoting the Living Future programs, including research project, including advisory support on some projects, working alongside some partners that are investing in our work as a nonprofit organization, and ultimately also training offers, training opportunities, including this masterclass, which is one of our flagship programs, really with the idea to advance a culture of regenerative design across Europe. A few housekeeping things before we start. Again, as I said, the events will be recorded, so they will keep it available after the call. Your microphone is muted. If you want to ask or put questions, please ask to raise your hand. You can open your mic. We will kindly ask you to rename yourself, if possible, in the attendance list with your name, last name, and country, just to have an overview of who is connecting from where. If you have any questions, please put them directly in the chat or ask to speak. We are going to have an introductory presentation at the beginning, but there will be absolutely room for questions and answers at the end of this presentation. And if you have additional questions after the call, please reach out to us at info@living-future.eu. And thanks again for being with us today and for your interest in the new edition of the Masterclass. A bit of program, let's say, for today. So we are going to introduce you briefly what's the rationale behind the Living Future Europe Masterclass. How is the learning process that we have been thinking of, and that clearly, if you are attending and registering for the masterclass, we will be running through. How is the masterclass structure, and which is also the calendar, the program of the different modules and live sessions in the next 10 weeks, starting from mid of March until the beginning of June. We have also some very good testimonials in our network, including Gijs Brugging from Architects in the Netherlands today. So I'm starting thanking you once again for your incredible support and also your brilliant participation to one of our previous editions of the Masterclass. We will learn from Gijs how the Masterclass, if yes, has changed a bit his daily professional activity towards a regenerative design scenario. We will also provide you with some information about the already confirmed facilitators and guest experts for the masterclass. So stay tuned also on this information. And finally, we will also provide with more information regarding the registration process, which is absolutely easy, and the very cheap pricing that we decided to establish for this year. And it said there will be absolutely room for questions and answers. So let's get started. First of all, to provide you with a bit of context on the main reasons why we are planning this new fourth edition of the Masterclass, same as we did in the past years. So the point is that once again, we know that the built environment is really impacting dramatically on the environment in a wider sense. Talking about energy consumption and CO2 emissions, we are around 40%. There are statistics say that 75% of buildings across Europe are completely energy inefficient. Construction and demolition waste, for instance, represents around 30% of the total waste generated by the industry. Not to mention water consumption, which depends for around 30% from residential buildings, manufacturing, and construction. And finally, the built environment is also responsible for around 30% of the biodiversity loss globally, which we know that is an urgent problem, urgent global issue, even more than greenhouse gases emission. We also have to speak about the social equity, the social justice angle. Things that, for instance, beyond the full physical footprint, construction is the largest global industrialized sector and at the highest risk of forced labor. And there is a dramatic statistic saying that working on a building site has become the deadliest profession in the United Kingdom. So there is absolutely something to be done. There is a huge room for improvement. The existing building stock in the European Union alone is around 220 million building units. And we also have to consider that the current pace in the construction industry is basically building a new New York City from scratch every 34 days. Speaking, some Minneapolis say the impact of a new project and the major renovation project. So the challenge at the point is very clear. Despite decades of green building movements, policies, strategies, legislation, and so forth and so on, the built environment is simply not making real progress within the sustainability agenda. And we will also define what we mean for sustainability across, let's say, the program. So still business as usual is only reducing impact and remaining the dominant degenerative discourse. And more in general, the building industry is still very linear, inefficient, unjust, and is creating tremendously harmful climate and environmental impacts. So what to do? So first of all, we started with the big vision, so with a big goal and a big vision in mind as Living Future Europe, but as part also of the Living Future movement. We stated once again very clearly with the new strategic plan covering the years from 2025 to 2027 just approved, so that we envision a regenerative Europe in which the built environment enables a thriving ecological and social system or systems, let's say, if we consider them, let's say, plurally. So this is basically the ambition and the goal. And we decided to put the ideal as the indicator of success. So I'm pretty sure that most of you are already familiar with this diagram, with this graph. So we are still working in the negative impact area of the building industry, still trying to be compliant with codes, sometimes reducing our impact on buildings, designing and building green buildings, or doing something better in reducing the impact, so very high performing buildings. We are still far from achieving the point of sustainability, which is basically this neutral point in the diagram where we are able to provide back to the environment what we have been taking off. But our goal is really to create a paradigm shift in the building industry and move the built environment towards a more regenerative scenario. So sustainable, restorative, regenerative scenario. So this is the roadmap, the ambitious roadmap we are trying to move along. And this vision is also a vision of different type of buildings. If we are addressing the built environment in a much more effective way, we can really provide a big change. Speaking only, for instance, about the strategy of the European Union, but also in the United Kingdom, there are very ambitious initiatives running now. if all the buildings in Europe were designed and built following a regenerative approach, this would mean achieve the long-term strategy of the European Union, for instance, when it comes to becoming a carbon neutral continent, as well as, for instance, for many organizations achieving their Scope 1 emissions goal, which is also an important topic to address. So it's a big challenge, which also implies, for instance, well-being of tenants, of occupants. This is also another important business that we can consider. So there are some numbers saying that the well-being trend itself is representing a 1.8 trillion euros global market only in the last year, in 2024, and is creating a possible GDP increase of 1 trillion euros as well. So in the end, there is a challenge, but we have also now, if we are able to design and build buildings in a different way, a very robust new value proposition, because we know that this is something based on the proven performances of the building design and built within our network with around 800 projects globally, covering already 5 million square meters on total. We have proved that basically the buildings can be converted from harmful legacy to regenerative design, reducing CO2 emissions to zero, so becoming really carbon neutral, increasing occupants' well-being of around 50%, not to mention the financial value. So if we were speaking, for instance, about productivity, there are numbers says that this type of business are able to create a 6% more productivity factor, and even a pretty robust return on investment that could be around 30%. So these buildings are also meaningful from a financial perspective. Needless to say, they also are based on a very good connection with the community, with the local ecosystems, and they are able to provide some very important social benefits. So that's why this is basically the main rationale behind the creation of this Masterclass program. A few years ago, we started in 2021, and we did it again in 2022. Then we waited for 18 months to, let's say, to collect more opportunities to have people engaged in our program. You see from the pictures, we always highlighted projects from the Living Future network, and this is the new edition, the new cohort going to kick off in a couple of weeks. For instance, in this picture, you can see another project from the Living Future program, which is the second zero carbon certified project in Europe, in Eindhoven, in the Netherlands. This is a project by Prologis. It's a completely carbon neutral logistics center. You know that obviously that logistics has some problems with sustainability. So starting design and building at least carbon neutral facilities, this could be also a way to reduce their tremendous impact. So let me speak about the learning process, how we conceive the learning process for this year. So basically, it is structured in three main areas or three main phases. So first of all, we collected a number of resources, including previous recordings from the previous masterclass, into a new platform which we have developed. So participants will have the opportunity to watch this around maybe less than 20 hours materials split in different videos on all of the different topics. So you can do it at your own pace. There will be also quizzes at the end of each unit. So you can also have the opportunity to test your learning, your knowledge level, including also some additional resources like books, reference videos, and so forth and so on. So this is something that once you register in the masterclass, you can manage at your own pace, and you can do it basically on your own. Possibly following the calendar of the masterclass, so that you are able to complete Unit 1, Unit 2, and so forth and so on. And at the end of each unit, we will have live sessions, and this is basically the sessions that are already scheduled in the next weeks, starting from the mid of March. Basically, they will consist of 2 hours from 5 to 7 p.m. European Central Time, or 4 to 6 p.m. UK time each Wednesday until the beginning of June. So basically, you will have the opportunity to learn the materials on your at your own pace beforehand, so as to arrive prepared to the live sessions. In the live session, we will basically run a conversation around the topics that we have been learning, together with some facilitators and guest experts, but with a more interactive approach. So differently from previous editions of the Masterclass, where we had, let's say, the most part of the learning based on frontal, let's say, teaching. In this case, we are really focusing mostly on having a pretty effective interaction with you guys directly in live in the session, so that we can share best practices, or collect your questions, and also interact with the guest speakers on understanding how to make this new type of buildings possible from a design and construction perspective. The third area, or the third phase, let's say, of the learning process is the project work. So each of you individually, you will have the opportunity to develop a project work of your interest. It could be whatever. It could be a new tool, could be a new project assessment, could be a new idea for a technology or a product, or could be also a piece of research. So it could be really whatever. So it's really based on your needs or your organizational needs. And this is something that you will be able to run in parallel with the masterclass. So basically addressing each topic at a time. So the approach of the masterclass will be very holistic, but in the end, we needed to split the masterclass into different pieces. So in order to deal with the main topics one by one, let's say. But again, as said, you will have the opportunity to learn at your own pace before the session, and then the live session, and in parallel also proceeding with the project work. So for instance, consider that your project work could be, I don't know, pre-assessment of a new project, building project. So there will be an opportunity for you on 1 week to work on the water management parts, maybe the following week on energy, the third week on materials, and so forth and so on. So in the end, you will basically have the opportunity to arrive at the end of the masterclass, so at the beginning of June, with your project work developed, also assisted by us, by the facilitator, the tutoring team, so as to present then in the final session the results of this project work. So this will be basically a practical implementation of what you have been learning along the process. So this is the calendar for the next weeks. As you see, basically we will start from around mid of March with the first introductory part on the different mindset which is needed to address regenerative buildings. We will also deal with the project management approach, which is obviously different in this type of buildings compared to the business as usual. There will be a second session on basically addressing the place around the building projects, and how to basically take the best from the design and construction of your project in reconnecting the building itself with the place where the building is located. Then there will be a unit on water management, and also how nature-based solutions can be helpful from this perspective. One session, one unit on energy and decarbonization. Obviously, this is an important part of our challenge and also of the Living Future programs. We will also address this part. We will then deal with the indoor environmental quality of enclosed spaces, addressing how the spaces can become healthier, and provide better opportunity, better conditions for occupants and tenants. So this is also in line with the health and happiness PITAL in the Living Building Challenge framework. We will have then a part on products, building materials, discussing the importance of transparency of their ingredients, to find and select healthy materials in the market, and also going forward towards a more circular and environmental positive scenario for the building products production. There will be the seventh unit on the themes of social justice and equity in the built environment. As anticipated, this is also a very important point. We will use the Just label as a guideline for that. This is also something that we absolutely have to address, because there isn't regenerative design without addressing also these topics. There will be a dedicated part inspired to the beauty petal in Living Building Challenge around beauty and biophilia design. This is also important. And then there will be the ninth unit on what someone has started calling the eighth petal, which is the financial petal. So basically, how this regenerative project, the regenerative buildings, are meaningful also from a financial perspective. And we will also have a conversation with some guest experts on this approach. So there are some interesting numbers, and absolutely we cannot wait also to address this topic. And as said, finally, there will be a session dedicated to present your project work results. So, as said, this is not the first edition of the masterclass that we are running. This is the fourth edition. In the past, we had great trainees, great participants. One of these great participants is Gies Brugin, and absolutely, Gies, it's a pleasure to welcome you once again in one of our events. Gies is the general manager of Orga Architect, which is absolutely a brilliant design studio in the Netherlands, doing amazing things, designing and building really in connection with nature. And Gies, once again, welcome. So we would like to know a bit more from your side if you think that this type of events could be helpful, and also if you find these needs that I highlighted at the beginning of the presentation for regenerative design in the building industry.
Yeah, thank you, Carlo, for introducing me. Great to be here. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, totally.
Great. I'll start sharing my screen. I made a couple slides for today. Let's see. Give me 1 second. There's the button. Yes. Oh. Okay, that's the first one. All right, so yeah, my name is Gijs Brugging. I work at Orga Architect. It's an architecture firm in the Netherlands that specializes in natural architecture. So we mainly use natural materials, low impact materials, and with each project we're trying to kind of set examples for the building industry in the Netherlands to move away from these carbon intensive materials like brick and concrete and steel, and try to use more solutions or alternatives like wood and other bio-based materials. So all these buildings you see here are basically wooden buildings. So that's why I kind of came from in taking part in the masterclass. I work as a general manager, coordinating the firm, but I also do a lot of research into fields like biophilic design and regenerative practices. So that's where my interest came from. And I wanted to kind of look more and look across the borders of the Netherlands, which is a very small country. And I was interested in what was happening in the rest of Europe. So that's a great place to do that. One of our more well-known buildings is this one, the primary school, De Verwondering, which won the Stefan Kellert Biophilic Design Awards in 2023, both the European category, which is organized by Living Future Europe, and also the global category, which is organized by Living Future from the US. And one of our main interests in designing buildings is biophilic design. I want to start with this one. The masterclass is largely centered on the principles of the Living Building Challenge. So right from the go, I wanted to share with you how such a great initiative this Living Building Challenge is. It's a certification for highly ambitious certification for buildings, regenerative buildings, and it really is like the number one place to start if you want to learn more about regenerative buildings. Basically, the certification is like chopped up in a bunch of different facets, different elements of regenerative building design, and this is just a great blueprint for if you're working in the building industry to learn more about having a positive impact with the buildings. So the Living Building Challenge also tells you about a lot of different quantitative aspects. So, for example, the carbon impact or water management, things that you can easily quantify and calculate, but also at least as important are the qualitative aspects. What is the social impact of a building? What's the impact on ecology? What's the cultural impact? And the Living Building Challenge really hands you a lot of tools to kind of quantify and qualitative and judge the quality of a building. So it's a great place to start. And the masterclass, when I took part, kind of guides you step by step. With each meeting, you kind of go through one aspect of the Living Building Challenge and kind of do a deep dive, usually with an expert, a guest expert that was present. And if I'm looking at the structure right now, it feels a little bit different, but roughly it's going to be similar with experts from different fields that take you into these different aspects of regenerative building design. So this is highly interesting, and even if you're not actually seeking certification for a building, or you're building on or you're working on a living building project, it's still just a great place to get knowledge on how to get into this regenerative design, it's a term that many people have heard, but not a lot of people know how you can actually put it into practice. And this is the first place to start. So like I mentioned, one of our main interests at Orca is biophilic design, which is bringing natural connections into the built environment. We've all evolved in nature, and our DNA is still coded to function in close proximity to nature. And the idea of biophilic design is if we design our built environment with a lot of natural connections in it, that will make us as humans feel better and perform better. And feel more at home. So this is the topic that I picked for my personal work project when I took part in the masterclass. And what I wanted to do, because this term of biophilic design is relatively new, I wanted to kind of see how you could introduce that to the mainstream. So this graphic kind of shows any sort of adoption of innovation or new ideas or new technologies kind of goes through different phases. And on the left, you see the people that are the early adopters that are familiar with the new project with biophilic design for this example. And on the right part, you see like the public, the mainstream, which are still hesitant and are kind of like lagging behind. And it's up to us, kind of like the people in front, the early adopters, to kind of bridge that gap from the early adopters to the mainstream. And that's what I wanted to look into for the work project that I did. Specifically for biophilic design. So this graphic was already shown by Carlo, so you kind of know what it's saying. So I used it to illustrate that the mainstream building sector is still kind of in the area where buildings have a negative impact. Then you have green buildings that are a bit more sustainable, are more high performing, but are still have a moderate amount of negative impact. And then you have the ambitions of the Living Building Challenge to really have a positive impact and give back to the planet. And between those existing building practices and the ambitions we have, there's quite a large gap of knowledge and expertise that we need to bridge. And the same goes for biophilic design. You could even say that experts are kind of sitting in their own bubble, and the mainstream, the public, the larger audience are sitting in their bubble. And there's a separation between that needs to be bridged. When I look at my LinkedIn feed, it feels like the whole world is working on biophilic design and bio-based buildings or regenerative design, but that is of course not the case. So that can be really deceptive. So what I did, I kind of put together this framework of bringing people on, for bringing people, clients, people in your project team on board with biophilic design. In the left column, you see different tactics, different methods you can use to share information with your client or with other people in your project team. And in the middle, you see in the middle column, you see the kind of what you're trying to trigger with each of that method or mean. And on the right side, you kind of see what kind of a result you'll get. So for example, when you're trying to explain what biophilic design is, you want to show some examples that are kind of like roughly the same kind of scale and maybe function that the building project that you're working on. And that will trigger visual appeal. People will like what they see, beautiful pictures. They will also trigger a sense of realism from, oh, if they do it on that project, maybe that's possible for my project. And that will create some sort of enthusiasm and trust in your expertise. So that's kind of like step by step how I put this framework together. At the time with the project work, I had each one illustrated with a bunch of practical examples, but there's not enough time for that to show you all of that. But that's roughly my idea for the project, and I ended up putting in a more kind of digestible top 10 list, everyone's favorite format. So that kind of was the end result, and it was a great kind of exercise to go through to explore all the different ways you can talk to people, explaining what biophilic design is and what it does. So that was just give you a rough idea of what kind of project would be possible when you take part in the masterclass. So what were my major takeaways from the masterclass? Next to like all the insights you got from going through the Living Building Challenge. Big one for me was like a different mindset. I remember very well the lectures that Emmanuel Pauwels gave. I'm not sure if he's still part of the curriculum this time, but those were great. And he introduced me to living systems thinking, which is kind of you kind of take a step back and kind of look at how nature actually works and how the human world actually works and all the differences and what we can do, what kind of mindset you need to bring those back together. So it's more like the philosophy behind regenerative practice, which gave me a lot of insights. And I did a follow-up course with Emmanuel after that, read a lot of books, and it really kind of, was an eye-opener for me. Secondly, there's just a lot of resources that you get from taking part in a masterclass, like lots of literature, lots of videos, lots of professionals you get to know that you can kind of follow their career, see what they're doing. So that was really like next to the actual lessons, there's a lot of depth there for you. If there's a specific topic you want to explore further, the sources are there for you to pick up and read. So that was it was really a gateway to knowledge for me. I also got to know a lot of people internationally across the borders. Our network in the Netherlands is kind of extensive, but we're kind of, I think in most countries we kind of are kind of looking at ourselves, at our own countries, what we're doing inside our own countries. And climate change doesn't really stop at the border, right? So it's a much more international problem. So for me, it was great to kind of share thoughts and ideas with the people from other countries, see what they were doing, see what I could learn from them, see what I could tell them from my own experience. And I still have contact with quite a few people that I got to know during that time, and still exchanging knowledge. So that was pretty great. And also, there's just a big source of inspiration. I mean, nowadays in these times with climate change and lots of political change, it's sometimes hard to it's easy to kind of feel like, what can I do? I'm just one person. What kind of effect can I have? And in taking part in initiatives like the masterclass, you see there's a whole bunch of other one persons like you that are also trying to make a change. And so that was really a great inspiration and a motivation, and gave me sense of direction where I want to go professionally. So those are kind of the big takeaways for me. Lastly, kind of to share with you what we're doing now. some of these ideas that I picked up at the masterclass, I was able to put into some of the architecture competitions that we take place in, and one of which was this one in our own city of Nijmegen, where we are based. And there was a plan for a new stretch of land that they wanted to do residential development there on that land. And by kind of sitting back and looking at the possibilities there, we decided to make a plan that kind of really was different from what they were asking. And we wanted to use that stretch of land to not develop buildings on, but instead move the buildings, the residences on the water, and free up the land to let nature kind of have its way with it and create new nature. And that way we're now able to design both new nature, natural life on land, and human life on the water to kind of coexist. So that was one of the things. Yeah, a lot of the ideas from the masterclass helped me to put into practice in this plan, and we won the competition for that. So that's one of the projects they're working on now, to build this district of 30 residences, floating residences on the water. So hope that gave you some insights. That was it for me, Carlo.
No, beautiful, and congratulations for this new award. So I wasn't aware. So, and this is another great project. And also thanks for the your kind words on the masterclass. So happy that you also maintained a very good relationship with the participants. So, yeah, we are all connected. We are all we have to be really united also in this challenging times. I'm not say difficult, challenging times. But the good news again is that we have the framework to do something different and to provide a positive impact on what we are doing, and also to let's say to define, let's say, a different scenario for the building industry. So for designers, developers, building product manufacturers, and so forth and so on. And again, congratulations also for this amazing project.
Yeah, thank you. I'll stop
Thank you.
sharing the screen.
Yeah, thanks again. He is very much appreciated. So I suppose there will be also questions for you, but I will collect them in the end of this very short introduction. Let me share a few additional information once again. So these are only some of the facilitators and guest experts. I will start from Martin Brown, our vice president based in Lancashire in the UK. Martin has been the say co-director and co-creator of all of these contents in the last editions of the masterclass. We have, for instance, Dimitra Theokari. She's working at Ensphere, which is a branch of ATP Architects, which is a big design, architectural and engineering firm based in Austria with branches all over Europe. More specifically, she's now leading business units of the company, which is focusing on nature-based solutions. For instance, she will provide a very good, interesting insights on how nature-based solutions can help us in managing the water issues of our buildings, and also the ecosystem where our buildings are based. You already mentioned Emmanuel Powell's founder and owner of Green Living Project, also the creator of a Regenerative Place initiative. He will speak again on the different mindset and how to conduct a different project management for regenerative design. So the good news is that with this masterclass, you will basically have a sort of bonus materials, the recordings from last year, but also taking advantage of lively conversation with some of the speakers from last year, and also new speakers. Like for instance, including Dave Cheshire, that you see in the right bottom part of these images. Dave is one of the sustainability leads at IECOM, which is another important international architecture engineering firm. Not to forget Jackie Pieri, who is working with Living Future Europe. She's the regenerative operations manager. She will deal with social equity angles, and she will speak extensively on the Just label, for instance, together with Helen Scandelari from Mani Group. They also got labeled with the Just with their factories in Italy for, let's say, a global workforce of 800 employees and workers. So also this part on social equity is very important. And Lena Lockwood, that you can see at the upper right part of these images, previously at RPS Trans, now working with Berkeley Capital Group, sorry, a real estate developer, where she's basically working as a lead of the ESG initiatives. And she's an expert on healthy materials, for instance, and how to vet and select materials, taking into consideration all of the different aspects, from the chemical ingredients to the carbon impact and embodied carbon and so forth and so on. But anyway, there will be more speakers and more trainers and guest speakers that we will keep you posted, or the new additions in the very next few weeks. He's mentioned the project work. This is, for instance, summary of the project works topics from one of the previous editions of the masterclass. As you can see, there are many topics from tools, feasibility studies on building projects, even some qualitative arguments, like, for instance, storytelling or regenerative design, and so forth and so on. So in the end, you will be absolutely flexible and free to define the better project work that might be interesting in your case. Just for your information, we will use a few tools, obviously. So we are basically locating all of our previous recording materials in this platform, which is called Teachable. But anyway, just for information, we obviously will be a user-friendly platform for you to work on. We will have materials located on Google Drive. We will also use Notion for basically monitoring the progress on your project work. We will use Zoom for our live sessions, and also we will use Mural for our workshops and practical activities that we will do all together. What about the pricing? We are keeping really the pricing very cheap for this edition, because our intent is really to have the largest number of participants possible, because in the end, we want to change the building industry and the built environment scenario in across Europe. So, and it's important that we have a good number of participants able to really provoke a change in their daily professional activities, so as to have a positive impact on the built environment, on what we are doing. So that's why we kept the pricing pretty cheap, considering again the more than 20 hours of recording materials and other resources, and then the 10 weeks of weekly meetings and support from our team, the project work support, and so forth and so on. So absolutely consider registering before the end of February, so that you can benefit of this 100 euros discount. Otherwise, from the 1st of March, the prices will increase. And we also have, if you are in touch with university students or universities more in general, we also have a very cheap option for university students with a valid university email address. So again, remember, please to register before the end of February in order to take the best of this discount. In the end, you will also have your final certificate of participation, which is basically valid also for your, I think, continuing professional developments program. So something that absolutely you can use in your professional activities and include in your curriculum. And you can find all the information and registration link at our media channels, on our website, on our RedFox platform, which is basically the landing page of the masterclass, also on our LinkedIn company account or organizational account, and so forth and so on. And you can also scan this QR code. So this will bring you directly to the registration page. and the process is absolutely very easy. That's it on my end, and I will keep absolutely the door, let's say the possibility for any questions you might have, also questions to us, questions to the Living Future Europe team. There is also Martin online, questions to his, or any additional comments that you want to share. I see there's also something in the chat. Yeah, we unfortunately don't have scholarships, but on the other hand, we focus really on keeping the prices very, say, cheap and affordable, considering the amount and the quality of resources that we provide. And again, we have a discounted price for basically around 50% discount prices for university students. If you have any questions or doubts or curiosities or anything that you want to ask, please let us know. Taking also the opportunity also to also interact with the participants. Or if you have any comments, I see some familiar faces online. Martin, also, if you want to add anything that I forgot.
No, other to endorse what you've both been saying, and pick up on Gee's point that there's very few classes or courses that pick up both what is regenerative, why we need a new regenerative mindset, and have the tools to be able to deliver a regenerative design project. And I think speaking to other cohorts, people who've joined the other cohorts, it's that project work to actually do something outside of the meetings,
Totally.
outside of the events, which has been really powerful. I must say most have struggled, or not struggled, but found it difficult and needed that new mindset to get into it. Because you're looking at projects or you're looking at topics through a different lens. So yeah,
but the approach that we're taking this year, Martin, in basically addressing one topic at a time, but starting with the project work from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So this is something that should facilitate the participants, because I remember the previous editions, we started with the project works a bit late, probably in the process. So that's why the participants had to run in order to complete the task in time for the final presentation.
Sorry, I wasn't meaning they had trouble, or they found it challenging because of the process. They found it challenging to look at projects through a different mindset.
Yeah.
Once they just determined their project, they would,
yeah. But let's say we will. So the sooner we are registering, also the sooner we will provide you with more information. So as to arrive prepared on the first unit, the first session, so you can also start thinking about the project work that you would like to work on. So there is a question from Marianne Häusler from Germany on Living Building Challenge projects in Germany. For the moment, there are no official registered project with Living Building Challenge in Germany, but we just completed a pretty robust pre-assessment of a potential Living Building Challenge project in Germany. Unfortunately, the client decided not to move forward with this project. But I think the main point was that they started considering Living Building Challenge a bit late in the process. So once the project was basically already defined, and at that point it was a bit difficult probably to change a few things, and in the end the client was a bit doubtful about being able to make it. Obviously, it's a challenge. So there is a challenge in the name and the title. It's a Living Building Challenge. There is a challenge in designing and building this project, having the 100% insurance that you will achieve the goal in the end. But this is part of the process. So it's challenging also under this perspective. But in the end, I would say that we did a very robust pre-assessment with the design and construction team. We did a great work. it will probably be for their next building. So in the end, it was absolutely a great opportunity. We don't have, say, a minimum and maximum number of participants. I would say that probably we would like to have at least 10 dozen people in the room. Maybe, I don't know, not more than 15 or 20, like to have, let's say, a balanced class. But in the end, I think how we structured the program this year, when basically each participant is able to run a part of the program on his or her own pace, I think I don't see as an issue the number of participants. Obviously, we reserve the possibility to start with the program having a sufficient number of participants. I would say at least 10 dozen people. So if you have any other friends or colleagues that might be interested in the program, please let them know. There is also a discount of 10% if you are registering 3 people from the same organization or more. So there's also an opportunity if you want to participate in teams. Perfect. Thank you, Julia. If you have any other questions or curiosity, absolutely feel free to ask them. Every type of questions are absolutely welcome. If not, we will keep, obviously, as said, the recording available also for any other colleagues or friends of you, and also the other people who registered for today but weren't able to make it.
Carla, I think Julia has a question. Has a hand.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Thank you very much for telling us of your experience. Be interesting to know what were the things that you found the most challenging. As Carlo says, it's all about the challenge, and we know we've got a long way to go to understand how to do this as well as we want to. But what were the things for you that were the most tricky to get into the right mindset?
I don't know. I think it's kind of you're being forced kind of to think out of your usual little work bubble where your daily life of work where you sit in, and you're kind of forced to kind of step outside of that and try to look at what you're doing objectively, kind of get out of your comfort zone, so to speak. Which was very. I learned a lot from doing that, but it's hard to do. And other things, yeah, some of the more like the philosophy parts, like I said, the living systems thinking, that was it's quite complex, so to speak. As you know, regenerative design is kind of complex from itself, but it's good that like the masterclass that kind of chops it up in bite-sized pieces, and same as the living building challenge does. So you can take one theme, one subject at a time, kind of dive into that, read a lot about it, and then get a grip on it, and then move on to the next. So that was yeah, it did help a lot that I just each time I spend a lot of time working on it before the next meeting, so you can really build a lot of knowledge, and you're already at like a moderate amount of knowledge level during the meeting, so that helped. So, but it was yeah, I wouldn't say it's a usually challenging course to take part in. It all kind of depends on how much time and interest you put in it yourself, and the more you get back from it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And when you were preparing when you were developing the scheme for the water houses,
Yeah.
which were the elements, which were the petals that presented the most challenge? Obviously, it's site specific. Some places will be easier than others for certain of the petals, but were there any that you learned anything particularly significant about how to meet each petal's challenge?
Well, it's not. don't get me wrong, it's not actually a Living Building Challenge project that we're doing. So yeah, it's just it's mostly we're focusing on the materials there. So they're mostly bio-based materials, building in wood. And we're focusing on biodiversity. So we're trying to create a site that's both good for natural life as for human life, and we're kind of like trying to fade the boundaries between the natural world and the built environment. So there's going to be green roofs, lots of nesting opportunities. There's going to be like water plants all around the buildings. So and actually we're starting underwater there. So there's going to be a lot of attention to the underwater ecology. For example, we're putting in old trees, throwing them into the water to create these living environments for small water creatures, for fish, for plant life to kind of have put their roots down. And we wanted to kind of set aside for nature to kind of take over development of the site. So that's a big part of it. So that kind of the way of thinking that you want to see not look at the buildings itself, but look at the buildings as part of a larger ecological system. That mindset was really important for that project.
Yeah.
And we worked together with the landscape developer, that is a landscape designer, I should say. So there was a real teamwork and kind of those two expertises coming together. That was quite important. So it was mostly that kind of mindset, to look at a new place to develop buildings, as also a new place to develop nature, kind of like that dual approach. I don't know if I explained it.
Yeah, you have. I could obviously talk to you for ages now, but the landscape designers with the right mindset is the bit that I haven't managed to find yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shush now.
Oh, thank you for Julia for this great comment. Any other questions that you might have? Again, thanks for your participation in this info session. You will find all the details on our website, LinkedIn page, and so forth and so on. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us at info@living-future.eu. This being said, thanks again for your participation. This probably there is a final name. Yeah, we did a final comment. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Julia, thanks again. It's been a pleasure also having an update on your activity. You're always doing amazing things.
Thanks, Carlo.
Please do like his. So meaning that sometimes you say, okay, but they are really great. They are really special. Now, in the end, there are other big and small design firms and consultants doing amazing job all over Europe. We are really working also to connecting these dots all across Europe. And again, sometimes it's also important, even if we are not able to achieve the full picture, let's say, of regenerative design, but at least demonstrated that some regenerative practices have been implemented. It could be around water, could be around materials, could be around energy or social justice practice or something. These are important elements to demonstrate to our stakeholders. And in the end, connecting all of these dots, we will be able to define a new scenario and to make this new framework emerge. So this is absolutely our hope. It's more than a hope, it's absolutely our daily activities, and this is something we are really very committed on. So thanks again for being with us today, and stay tuned and see you very soon. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.